Ulonka tabati yada tó yẹ kó máa da ifá inú tó yẹ kó jẹun lọ fi bí pa Ọbàtálá ọba takuntakun Ṣàngó Èṣù Ògún Ọya Ọ̀ṣun kí ni ṣẹ̀ṣe tán ṣe nílé yìí o ó jẹ́ lọ jára rẹ̀.
Aaliyah, peace and blessings, peace and blessings. Welcome to another episode of the African Spirituality Experience. I'm your host, Orisha, and we are back, I believe, for week either 3 or 4 with the Thunder and Lightning duo of Big Chief Rod Hayes and Brother Bdell 1014, man. It's been a long time coming, fellas. It's been a long time coming since last Sunday, man. But I definitely look forward to today's conversation because I already know it's going to be another epic one of them ones. First and foremost, I appreciate you two brothers, man, for coming through. I screenshotted a comment too. I don't know where I saw it in the comments, but somebody was like the Dream Team. I was like, man, I like that. That sounds dope. I like that. Then I seen the big three. The love been dope. So shout out to the tribe, man. The tribe been tribing. The subscribers are picking up. The love, the comments is there. The private community, those who are supporting, we appreciate all the love, the support in every way, family. And we definitely are here to make it do what it do, especially those, I've seen a couple of sincere, heartfelt comments where they were speaking about, pretty much just making sure that we're watched over and protected, based upon the type of information that we're sharing. And we all know what it is, but we came here for this, so we ain't worried about that. But we definitely appreciate, the love, support, and the prayers, because that's a real thing we do.
Hey, I got a security team called Wish a Nigga Would.
Look, I didn't want to go there, but hell, since we there, look, I know the mothers is around like the crow, and when them birds is around, I know we got it's another levels of protection around. So I'll just say that. So yeah, we definitely we got that protection on deck.
I wish a ninja would.
I know that's right. Yes, sir. But yeah, man. So I'm just gonna keep it a buck, man. Listen. I had to step out the room to go grab something real quick and come back in. I heard the conversation. Y'all was chopping it up. It was in regards to a flag. And I'm like, yo, what kind of flag y'all talking about? And Big Chief like, man, let's just get it, man. The people need to hear this too. So listen, I don't know what flag it was, but y'all mind kind of breaking it down, not just for myself, but for all those who are coming here today for this war report.
Give the intro of what we was talking about before we go into it, Bdell.
We was going into the fact that when you look at the United States map and you go to the geographical area where Washington, D.C. is at, D.C. is no longer a part of the corporation no more. So what they're doing is a bait and switch, because Denver is going to be the new headquarters for the United States Capitol, where Emerald City is also located. I believe Rob was also touching in on that on another transmission. But, this is the fall of the de facto corporation that's no longer in business no more, because by way of the Geneva Codes, anytime that, America or any type of, international geopolitical system is in a state of warfare, that's a Geneva Convention violation, to where they no longer have jurisdiction over that land, because we're in a state of war right now. So everything that you're seeing right now, especially as far as like when you look at the word Washington, that's a derivative of the Washita Nation that controls that geographical areas that was, colonized by, those conquistadors and these missionaries and these Europeans or whatever. So that also works in conjunction with that flag that Donald Trump was, that you said he put up around the time when the guy had the Viking helmet on. So
no, he just did the flag. They raised the flag like a day or two ago, probably Friday.
Okay.
They had a ceremony at the White House raising the flag.
Okay.
Yeah, so what I was just explaining to you was, okay, so the message when they gave him the flag was, we captured the flag, 1, and we got them all, 2.
Okay.
That's what they told him when they was handing him the flag. Well, first we got to know, when did they capture the flag? Because it had to be seen openly in the public. If the tribe's behind it, it got to be done openly in the public.
Right.
And we don't have to do it ourselves. We can send what we call a cat's paw, a henchman, a cash dummy, a fall guy, a patsy. Right. So we go back to January the 6th. What I was telling you is the dude with the Viking helmet captured the Admiralty flag. The Admiralty flag is how they was exercising Admiralty jurisdiction. through postal codes. When the guy sat behind on January 6th, sat behind Pelosi's desk, he only had to be there for 30 seconds. He was there like 5 minutes or more.
Right.
That's called capturing the flag of the vessel. So, and this is the part where Orisha walked in. When you board a ship, the first thing that you do after you board the ship is you bring down the flag and you present it to the captain of the ship that's boarding the ship. So they send a crew on, one of them take the flag down, the rest of them secure the ship. Then the one who took the flag got to go back to his captain and then give him the flag. Right? That means we've successfully captured your flag. Then, in response to that, the captain who got the flag of the captured ship has to give them his flag. And then he take the one they call the first mate on the ship, right? Like his number one guy. The first mate job is to become the captain of the secondary ship. Right? So this was from the pirate wars. Let's go back to the Law of the Flag. In the Law of the Flag, all of the information is out there, but it's a couple books that go into it, but most of the information is scattered. How do you capture a flag? Right? You capture the flag by occupying the ship. How do you know the ship is occupied? Because on the ship, you sit behind the captain's seat, you know, where the steering wheel is. Right? So once you sit there while your people take the flag down, the ship is now considered captured. So when they gave Trump back the flag, they gave him a message. We captured their flag and we got them all. Then he turned around later in the day and had a flag raising ceremony of the territorial flag of the Constitution, the Constitutional Republic. Because remember, before we get back to tribal rule, we got to go backwards. We had to get out of admiralty into the Republic to get the law back on the land. Once the law back on the land, I already told them you're going to see the National Guard got to come out and they have to be supported by military special ops for one reason. The people that they fighting against got paid private militaries. And they all peppered into these people that they calling protesters with instructions. And a lot of them are Manchurian candidates that can't even control themselves if they want to break the narrative. So, like Bdell was just saying, the capital land now have to move across the Mississippi. They got to be on the west side of the Mississippi River.
Now, what's the significance of it happening to be on the west, Big Chief?
Because that's where it's supposed to have been at in the beginning. Remember, New Orleans was the capital for the longest. Before Philadelphia was the capital, New Orleans was the capital and it was the refugee intake.
That's Washington land.
Yeah. So when they say we was taking orphans in from all around the world, they ain't lying.
Right.
But they had the process they had to go through. The only reason why New Orleans got shut down and New York got open is because all in the Gulf, we was fighting. We was fighting French and Spanish. Old Mississippians took riverboats to fight them off the river, the Mississippi River, into the Gulf to fight these pirates, conquistadors, Huguenots, and gentry. The English invaded us from the east under the orders of the British Crown. But from the south, we was being invaded by France and primarily France and Spain, right? And the Dutch slid on up in there in New York.
Yep. The Dutch masters. But yeah, so how does that, you know, because I know the great majority, when you look at that mural over in Denver Airport, it's really you basically showing you the blueprint, you know, by way of the transgressive art like, do you think that's going to be the headquarters for the new United States corporation? Because they got the Chennai Mountain complex there, and they got those deep underground military
Well,
bunkers.
it's one thing that most of us overlooking. The new capital is going to be on a lake.
Yeah,
the lake is, the lake is called Emerald Lake. I keep saying Colorado, but it's actually in Montana. Right? And the county is Silver Bow. All these is relevant. It's shaped like the Liberty Bell. All right. So the Crystal City, the Emerald City is the Crystal City because the emerald is a crystal.
Right.
So when they talk about the return of the Crystal City, it's actually called a royal jumper ship in modern English. And it's to carry, like, for instance, when certain stuff got to go into outer space, they put it on a lesser rocket. But this is a royal jumper ship. It carried people. And it's the streets of gold, all that. The whole heaven story is about, it's an Atlantean built ship. It's not built by the Anunnaki. It was here before they came. Wherever that ship land at is where our capital is going to be. And I just told you where it's landing at.
Now you said something. You said a lot, but you said something just then. You said something just then, man. It got my spidey senses doing somersaults, backflips, cartwheels, and all that there, man. You said that this ship was created by the Atlanteans and that was here prior to the Anunnaki. So in regards to that, because a lot of people, including myself, know that the Anunnaki was, they came a long time ago, but a lot of people don't know that there was civilizations here, or there was, civilizations here that predated that. So can you kind of tap into that a little bit in regards to like how the Atlanteans were here prior to the Anunnaki?
And that's going to segue right into what you was asking Bdell to go into about the synopsis of his next video. So look,
alignment.
Atlantis was 99% female. It was only like one male to every 10,000 women. And of them 10,000 women, less than 100 of them had what they call, when you in prison and you had sex with your wife, conjugal
visits, yeah.
Right. Only a small number of them had conjugal rights to consort with the male. But the male was created by the women because the Anunnaki were coming. The arrival of the Anunnaki was foretold by, I can't even say the name, but it's the closest I could get to the name is Laris. She is an earth spirit who takes form from time to time, and she's classified as a reptilian, but she's one of the oldest earth spirits. And she told them as an oracle that there were some people coming that was physically different. This was also before the Andromeda beings got here. The Andromeda beings got wind of Earth, which was at the time Tiamat. They got wind of it by tracking exile Anunnaki, who was the first to come, named Alalu or Ilelu. Right? And they came here and began hunting the people. Right? Because they thought that it was a patriarchal world, because they know wherever the patriarchs of Nibiru go, they conquer and rule under patriarchal domination. Right? I'm not going to go into no more into that because that's a whole. So anyway, the Atlanteans was already here. Now, when you read the story of Loki, right, and they gave Thor the earth, but Loki was the rightful heir. Remember, his mother was the ice princess from the ice giants. When they talking about the ice giants, they talking about the giants that was froze under the ice, literally. But they not necessarily giants in stature. They giants in brain power. They dragons in spirit, right? But when they manifest in the 3D realm, they take on a human suit, right? So all of your fairies, gnomes, ogres, all that, they all in human suits right now.
Right.
And you can look at certain people and you can tell when you understand the mythology that these 4-dimensional beings has solidified in 3D. Right? So Atlantis was here long before the Anunnaki arrived. They was at the highest apex of civilization when they came. When they first came, they didn't disrupt civilization because Enki was a peacemaker. He wasn't a shit starter. Enlil is a known shit starter. When Enlil heard about all of the fun Enki was having, he got jealous. Right? So he want to come to the earth to conquer. But he ain't telling people that. When he first went to Anu, everybody on Nibiru was like, hell no, don't send Enlil down there. He ain't gonna do but mess everything up.
Facts.
But he raised so much hell that his father was like, man, I don't want to hear that. Go on down there and deal with your brother. I don't want to deal with you.
Facts. And
when he got down here, by him being the son of a wife, even though Enki was older, he was son of a concubine. So the son of the wife, on Nibiru terms, take precedent in the heir to the throneship. And this is why it was a conflict between Cain and Abel, Esau and Jacob, Isaac and Ishmael. It's the same damn story played on replay, loop. Right? But only it look a little different because time passed. But it's the same story reenactment, set in Osiris.
Yep.
Same story. Right? And so Atlantis was a global civilization. And the capital of Atlantis was the Americas. Which takes us into what you was going to ask Bdell about.
To go into what you were saying about, this also is in connection with the Lost Book of Enki. You were saying that it was a multitude of women that was controlling the infrastructure of Atlantis. So that goes into microbiology. The first organism on the planet is a prokaryotic cell, and Black women have that inside their womb. And as you were saying about the infrastructure of patriarchy is what subjugated the matriarch, but the inception to reverse the polarity is when women heal on this planet. All this shit can really be over if women go through the healing process, because that would eradicate their menstrual cycle that's tethered connected to the moon, is what you call the silver key, right? So it's one of those things where it dismantled the illusion, because we all know that the moon is basically a quantum satellite that controls the energy and the frequency and the vibration of women on the planet. So that's where they set up their patriarchal infrastructures by way of the materialism. So it's kind of like the same thing. You ever seen the movie They Live?
I've never seen that.
Piper. The glasses was the embodiment of squaring a circle to where you can tap into the spiritual realm by dismantling the illusion that's being subjugated by frequency modification. Because it shows you in the movie, it had a sleep spell. It was going, it's like a looping system, telling people to stay asleep. That is basically the embodiment of the moon. So what I'm saying is that, from the inception of time, from the Atlantean civilizations that was in alignment with the star Polaris, where we have fifth dimensional civilizations, it's one of those things where if the women heal, everything can go back into its, restoration process.
That's why they turned them off from Lilith.
Yep.
Don't finish you saying, I'm gonna come back to it.
But yeah, now as you were saying about, I was gonna do a transmission. You can just look at it from connotative linguistics. Atlanta, Atlantis. You know, it's basically the same thing. And we're having that retreat over in Stone Mountain, Georgia. But a lot of people don't know that Stone Mountain is actually the capstone to places like Hollow Earth, to where you get outside of the ice wall, because they don't want you to know that, because there's another you on the other side, right? So it's one of those things where Atlanta is like, it's really highly magnetic in that geographical area, because you know it's on the 33rd parallel, along with Baghdad, along with Dallas, Texas, where JFK was unalive. It's a very, you know, it's a powerful energy in that, you know, in that landmass, you know, just in general. So that's all, you know, in conjunction with bombs over Baghdad with outcasts and shit like that, or whatever. There's a reason for that. So there's a spiritual component that actually plays a part of this whole process when you're talking about, you know, the end time, the science of it.
Yeah. Well, listen, we definitely looking at the end as we know it for sure, because things have definitely changed. Things are definitely speeding up, and it's happening like real fast in real time. We were speaking about the significance about the impact of the storms, right? So me being out here, bless you, me being out here at the bottom of the map on the East Coast, we're accustomed to having very powerful storms outside of the hurricanes, like just a regular thunderstorm, excuse me, depending on, you know, the time of the year and when it hits and how it hits, all that can be like a tropical storm in other environments or atmospheres, because it gets so intense. But as of late, and if I'm not mistaken, I think the Bay Area, Central Florida, Tampa Bay area, is the lightning capital of the world, if I'm not mistaken. But either way it goes, the lightning strikes are significant, and that's Kabio Shango. But then the thunder, like we was talking before we came on air about the thunder, man. I've had thunder in this area over the last week or so that was shaking houses. I'm talking about like shaking where the windows is rattling. Like, I mean, like boom, boom, boom. I mean, like people getting scared, like what the hell is going on type of you know, rattling. And I believe one of y'all I don't know which one of y'all it was, but somebody like, yeah, it sounded like almost like spaceships were crashing up in the sky. But that's what it really sounded like for real, for real. So does what's going on cosmically, when we talk about these solar flares and, you know, the presence of Ra doing what Ra do, as well as all the developments cosmically, how it's kind of pouring into what we're dealing with here on the planet. Is there a significance in the rise in activity with the strength of the storms, the brightness of the lightning, and all these things that's taking place? You know, is there like some sort of tether connection or something going on that's intensifying, making these natural, nature, you know, activity like intensify or maximize? Like, is that something in correlation?
You on mute, Rod?
Stormtroopers, rain dancers.
Mm.
When you crib walking, that's walking lightning. When you be walking, that's the claps of thunder. When the women is what they call rump shaking, right? That's causing the earthquakes. All this is telling us is we moving back into our power. That's why you see us dancing. When you see us, what we call line dancing, everybody doing the same step on beat, right? That's calibrating. We calibrate one to another. Buju Banton say through that mystical communication within, we keep on coming together. I love to see when brothers and sisters are looking out for one another. He's telling you the old culture. We connected, but we had to get back connected. Line dancing is the same thing that the FY do when they do drills. It's the same thing flocks of birds do when they flying south for the winter. It's the same thing herds of cattle in the forest when they move from one grazing location to another. Right? So you got to get calibrated. Everybody got to get in the field. But we ain't talking about on the battlefield. We talking the energy field.
Yes, sir.
Right? So when you see the word Atlantis, TIS mean was. It was called Atlant. IS mean is. Right? So to put the T in front of the is to flip the past tense of a thing. If you went from Atlant, right, and you put Ta. Ta mean land.
Mm-hmm.
Atlan mean at the land of Ta, which carries a dual meaning in Kemet. So you see the weather patterns syncing with what we doing on the earth. And everything had to happen, just what you seeing. I've been telling people all of this stuff, what to look for. At first they thought I was crazy till they started seeing it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So the weather patterns is being influenced. They trying to override it with HARP.
Mm-hmm.
But we gotta remember, in 2017, Trump gave executive order shutting HARP down. But he can't shut the other countries from trying to use similar technology. He can only stop the American deep state from doing it over here. Because if you call me violating that executive order, it's consequences attached to it. Right? And this is why during the Sleepy Joe administration, they had the balloons going across the land so people could see that if their heart machine would have been intact, they would have just used the wind to blow it back across the water. So they was doing all that test runs, see if they paying attention. Nope, they ain't paying attention except for that crazy guy up there in Pontiac. The rest of them ain't paying no attention.
Well,
I'm paying attention. Shit. and I got a good question, but go ahead, Bdell. I'm gonna wait till you go ahead. What you got?
But to tackle on in talking about weather modification, one thing people got to understand is that physical destruction is facilitated by spiritual energy that's transmuted from the cosmos. So World War III is actually a form of a spiritual war, right? So a lot of these geometric storms is one of those things where you have to understand that the rise of the matriarch is connected to the energy of the woman, because the woman, she has the ability to manipulate the weather by way of orgone energy, right? Because she's tapped into the mitochondrial DNA of planet Earth. So as I was saying, when a woman has the ability to heal herself, that's where the reset is going to happen, full spectrum.
And they're contagious. If you're in around 5 healed sisters, you could take those 5 healed sisters and put them in a group of other sisters that ain't healed, and just let them sit there. They don't got to say nothing, do nothing. All of a sudden, all of the chaos will start to settle, and you be like, what's going on? And then you just see them 5 sisters just sitting there. They're not doing nothing. They just being themselves, being in their energy. Tesla coils. You can't explain it no other way. They Tesla coils, and they sync to one another, and the one that's most imbalanced becomes the highest ranked one, because she's the one at the center that stabilizes the rest. And this is the whole purpose of putting Big Mama back in her proper place. Because she serves as the focal point for the healed women to help the other women heal. And this patriarchy, man, this has been some horrible stuff. I don't even see how people would allow it to exist this long, because it's belligerent to the natural order of Earth. It ain't from here.
Facts.
Man, listen, you both of y'all drop some serious some bombs. Real quick, I got a question that I cannot wait to hear the answer for. But when you said what you just said, Rod, that brought me to something that I know for a fact that is on point, because I know for the women that are in the tribe or who are in the comments or who are watching the live would be able to attest to this. But if you put 2 or more women in one household, one of them will dominate the other to a point where they will automatically start to have their menstrual cycle at the same time of the month, based upon what I would imagine to be the biorhythm of what you just said, right? I know that to be a fact because I've lived, in a house where that's taken place.
That's the Lilith effect.
Yep.
Bruh.
That's why they don't want the women to find out the story of Lilith.
Well, Lilith
was there long before there was a moon.
Yep.
Right? The moon that was there as a section of Earth was replaced by this spaceship they got up there now.
Right.
That's a battleship.
So is there a connection between Lilith and Aset?
Look at it like this. When Aset is Isis, when Aset is on her throne and her power, and she need to clap you, Hey, Lila, come get this sucker out of my court.
That's right. Yeah.
I like that. I see where you're going with that.
That's
So to
why
me,
she's the moon of Saturn.
Yep.
I like that because now
The
what
judge.
that is.
Yeah, she's the enforcer of the judge. She's the bailiff.
Mm-hmm.
I like that because now in the Orisha pantheon, that's the equivalent of Oshun when she's in her goddess energy. She's the beautiful goddess, you know what I'm saying, who the sweet honey and all that. But then you F around and find out she turned into the vulture, you know what I'm saying, and stuff get real. So I can see where how that, you know what I'm saying, could be two sides of the polarity.
But you know why she turned into a vulture, right?
I do, but can you share with the tribe?
Because when you do dirt to Oshun, she's gonna be protected by somebody called the Ogun.
Yep.
And he gonna leave a trail of bodies for the vulture to devour.
Everybody say bye-bye. Listen, so
Right.
now I'm gonna go back to my other question before I forget it or we go too far offshore. So now shout out to one and only Queen. She said when does the silver bow cross the Silver Lake? Before we get into that though, Big Chief, is there a connection? Because over the last couple of weeks, I've been having a lot of strong alignment in regards to twins, right? And I'm a Gemini myself, and I'm around in vicinities with a lot of other Geminis. So I know for a fact that, you know, being a Gemini, I know how we move different. But is there some sort of correlation between this Gemini thing and we talk about, because I've never heard of Silver Bow, that town, Silver Bow, right? I mean Silver Lake, right?
County. It's a county.
County, okay.
Silver Bow. Silver Bow is the county.
Okay.
And Emerald Lake is the lake.
Got you. So now Silver Bow County and then Emerald Lake. Is there any connections or ties between Silver Bow County here and then when we go over to ancient Nubia, when you talk about Taseti, the land of the bow, which Taseti, according to, you know, some researchers, predates Kemet. You know what I mean? They say like some of the Nubians came and migrated from Taseti, the land of the bow, and went up into Kemet. Regardless of that, is there a similarity or a connection between these two bow towns or these two areas that are tied to this bow?
The link is Tahuti. False. He's the archer of the heavens. Right? He's Mercury, the messenger of the gods. Right? And when he send a message far distances, he shoot a bow in the air and it looks like a shooting star. But it's also, if you go to Khalil Gibran, the patriot, the bow is also representative of the parents and the arrow of the children. So it's the bloodline that's being revealed on two sides of the water. This is Amur Inca. And the other side of the water is the Afar Inca. Inca mean people. That's it. Right? Amaru is the tribe of the Mesoamerican culture. And the Afar tribe is the kindred tribe over in the land, over there in West Africa. No, East Africa. Right? So when you see the flaming spear in African culture, mean the same as the flaming arrow in indigenous ancient American culture. It's all go back to Atlantis and Tahuti.
Yes, sir. I like that.
The significance of the connection that they're all teleconnected by way of a certain ley line because it contains an ephro energy. So even when you get into the Sufi order of the Sons of Green Light, so, you know, as far as like the significance of it, there's a powerful magnitude there. It's a highly, you know, magnetic, you know, ley line, which why it has like a certain a G-force. And that G-force is to convulge. Well, the best way I can explain it, you ever read the book called Non-Ether Re-Engineering?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. And it goes into the science of Patad. Like he was talking about how the bow and arrow was basically the embodiment of gamma radiation infiltrating the atmosphere. They just came out with a publication talking about Chernobyl Park on they have a fungus is basically contained of melanin and it's able to transmute gamma radiation into energy. And it's a form of a fungus. And also, that's even in connection with, Mario. When he takes a mushroom is a fungus, right?
Wow.
So it's one of those things where they know that the conversion of, energy on certain ley lines has the ability to propagate this energy of right knowledge to where people is able to tap into their Christ consciousness by unlocking the scroll of all, which is your 7 tablets of destiny. What you call your chakra system or your circulatory system.
I see.
Yeah, that's the metaphysical aspects of it, as far as like DNA upgrades when it comes to those land masses that's on those ley lines.
So real quick before we go further, shout out to you for the because I didn't ever ask the full question, but you got a episode coming out tomorrow called Atlantis. No, is it Atlantis is Atlanta or Atlanta is Atlantis?
Atlanta is Atlantis, but it's coming out Tuesday.
Oh, Tuesday, my bad. Okay. So now that we're speaking about this Atlantean legacy and the significance of how old and how ancient Atlantis is, right? When we speak about Atlantis, there's a lot of I would say history or historical facts that tie it to like being advanced like technologically, spiritually, in a lot of different ways, right? But there's also this thing that we've all heard about called mermaids and mermen. Is there any connection in between, like how I heard a story before, I can't remember where I heard it, but it's like if you're able to follow a manta ray home, you can find some of the secrets to the planet Earth, right? So that's because I'm assuming how deep they can go down into and maybe even access the inner Earth. I'm not quite sure where that goes with that quote, but I remember it stuck to me. But is there some sort of connection between mermaid, mermen, starfish, whales, and dolphins that like Atlantis has something to do with? Does all that connect, or like are they separate? Like how does
Anunnaki brought dolphins here. They brought different species of dolphins, and they was using them as incubators to hold genetic material that they had collected from other star systems. Right. The octopus came before them on their own. And they survived the arduous journey. I'm not going to get all into that, but the tribes, the water tribes, you still have a water tribe in South Africa. You still have one in the Philippines. But when you go back to the Dogon, they talk about the Nomo coming out of the water. Right? And this is all related to the tail of the mermaid. In 3D, the mermaid doesn't have a tail. She's walking around. She's a water bearer. She's walking around. She got the squirt. She's an Aquarian. She got a special ability to produce a massive amount of the female water, if you get the drift. Right? So they end up carrying the secrets of the water tribes. Right? Whereas the fire sprites are a species of fairy that carry the secrets to the fire. And then the gnomes, which was originally all female, but they carry the secrets to earth magic. Right? And then you have, I forgot the ones for the air magic, but you got another species of them that's related to the fairies, but they control the air magic. They hold the secrets to air magic, right? Moving the winds, making the winds concentrate in one place and dissipate in another. They can make a whole city of people suffocate by separating the oxygen from the air, right? And some of the women find out it only will take them a little bit of meditation to tune in. They're going to know what tribe they from: water tribe, earth tribe, air tribe. The ones that they call from the ether is called angels. Now we didn't ascribe masculine genders to all the angels. But in their pure form, they neuter gender. But when they take on human form, they come in the feminine gender.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So Michael is actually Michelle.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Hey, listen, look. He tried to start some shit. Look.
But to tackle on what he was saying,
he talking about a double entendre.
it was. He snuck with little.
I ain't gonna go there. Go ahead, Bdell. I'm not gonna go with it.
But the tackle on what you was talking about, the mermaids, the starfish, and when you're talking about the Dogon tribe in Mali, what happened is that, you know, the planet was in a state of, it was basically in alignment with, you know, the galactic center. And that's when you have a fifth dimensional civilization. So that's where, you know, the great majority of those species was constructed. So the genetical process of it, when you're talking about a starfish or mermaid, they all have immortalized cell lines, right? So that means that the cell is able to replicate themselves on an infinite level. So this is why the elite, they used to eat the mermaids. Matter of fact, it's one of those things where you chop a starfish in half, it'll grow right back.
Yeah.
He had that same genetical capability during the time of Atlantis, right? Because like I said, the planet was basically in a different alignment to where we was able to stream down intelligence from the magnetosphere of what you call the spiritual sun, which is the star Polaris. We was harmonizing with those energies. So so that's really the significance of it. They understand that, you know, it's connected to us on a genetical level, because we have immortalized cell lines too once we activate the melanin, right? When you get into Sumerian mythology, they talk about this process called Melamu. Melamu is the divine radiance of the Nimbus aura. So it's not a coincidence that they came out with a new variant talking about, it's called Nimbus, right? It's a sun frequency. It's a frequency that turns you into a god. That is the magnum opus. That's what you're talking about, alchemy, when human becomes God in the golden age, right? So even when you look at it from that perspective, I broke down in my last video, you know, it's one of those things where you get rid of the religion by way of external stimulation. Once you find out that you're the god, that's when you get your aura, just like Bruce Leroy did on The Last Dragon. It's a transmutation of energy. Where you're able to activate the melanin and have immortalized cell lines like the mermaid, starfish, because those are our capabilities once we tap into that, you know, energy.
starfish is from Venus.
Yep.
That's why every now and then you see a 6-point starfish, but most of them 5-point starfish. The 5-point star is the symbol for Venus. Venus is the goddess of the love goddess, who is the relay. when the sunrise, right before sunrise, Venus rides with Mercury on her heels. Right. This is the young mother. She haven't became the matriarch yet. Right. She's the new wife that just had the baby. But she's going to Father Shamash, the son, in order to give her the wisdom. This is why they say that Isis was given the right eye of Ra. Right? Because he was giving her his wisdom and his ability to see beyond regular sight. Right? So you got the eye of Horus, which is the other eye of Ra, that was given to Horus, his son, which is not his son, but his grandson. They tell in the mythology, Horus is the replacement for the one that got killed. Who got killed? Osiris. Who was the first resurrected god? Osiris, the green man. When you talk about the fungus in the Chernobyl, that's all tying in the Osirian energy and the gamma rays, the incredible Hulk, all that tie back to Osiris and the Osirian resurrection. Yep. So in the DNA, we all have the codes, but we have to do a certain amount of due diligence to activate the code. They told us that there was no code, that all you got to do is pray to your Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. They never told you was talking to ISIS and that you keep disrespecting her, calling her a man's name.
Right.
Because it wasn't no Jesus when the story was wrote.
Right.
And it wasn't written in Hebrew, so it wasn't no Yeshua.
Sure wasn't.
It was written in Greek. And it was IES-OUS, been that the whole time. But don't nobody want to go back one language and read what it said in the original language it was written.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The compilation of the Old Testament was an afterthought to give a backstory to the New Testament. Right? And then all of it was stolen from the Coptic text and the Gnostic text and the Essene text. They took all those texts. Who do you think all them people was Constantine was rounding up for the Nicene Council? They were all of the leaders of those. Like if you get to all of the preachers in America, so we finna make a new church. Right? We're gonna have more MK Ultra added to it than used to be. And y'all gotta figure out how to make it work. It's all sorcery. Because they're making you put yourself in the self-imposed hypnotic trance, which prevents the God inside from taking charge of your life. So it leaves you at the mercy of your ego, which may or may not be who you really are. Your ego is the sum total of what everybody ever said about you that you accepted as true without question. And the only way to break free of it, purify the ego by questioning everything everybody ever said about you.
Yes, sir.
And find out if it matches how you really feel.
Look, and the quote Les Brown, other people's opinion of you is none of your damn business.
Right.
Don't worry about what other people think about you. It's what you do with you.
And another way to break that spell was tapping into ancient Proto-Semitic language and ancient Moabite language, because those languages in itself contain silicon and carbon. So it has an octave vibration to stream down intelligence from the magnetosphere. So it's one of those things where, like I said, the activation of right knowledge is really just tapping into the fact that you're able to break the sleep spell and the sleep spell of the moon. Because I told you it's a quantum satellite. It's a quantum satellite that controls everything by way of emotion that keeps you connected to the demiurge. So when you look at the activation of the macabre, right, that's the only way you can get out of here. You got to break the spell. You got to break the silver cord, like Rob was saying. And this is all, subjected to a dietary system as well, because we all know that the parasites in our body is basically a archonic network to control us and keep us tethered connected to the moon by way of our emotions. When you go into the toxoplasma gondii, when the parasites attach themselves to the reptilian cortex to control you and keep you in a state of fight or flight, that's what that's talking about. You got to break the spell physically, vibrationally, and you got to break it, by way of understanding our ancient languages as well.
Or the simplest way to say that last part was educate yourself above the condition.
Yes, sir.
Yep.
That part. Yeah.
Because they use education to keep you capped. Right. They put a governor on your mini bike so you can't go too fast.
Yep.
12-step critical thinking detoxification program masquerading as education to train worker drones.
Yeah. It's just to keep you content, not to keep to elevate you or teach you some damn some sort of working on freedom, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially. No, it's to keep you in the hamster wheel, running around so you can power up the machine that's called the corporation.
Yeah,
but
and I was talking about that proprioception that's connected to it. They show you in the CIA documentation, the holonomic brain theory. They show you that there's an encryption grid over the brain, which is the suprachiasmatic nucleus. So, you have a firmament over the planet, that you also have a firmament inside your brain that keeps you boxed in. That's what I call the VMAT2 gene. That is the vesicular monomod transporter 2 gene that keeps you stuck, boxed in. The veneration of the cube of Saturn.
Does that have any connection to the Bartholin gland?
Outside the box, huh?
My bad. I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was saying, does that have any sort of connection to the Bartholin gland as well? Is there any ties between the two?
No, the Bartholin gland is how you tap into your spiritual powers. Because even from the inception of birth, they inject PCP inside the hippocampus layer of the brain. That is also tethered connected to the Bartholin gland. So it's also a form of a spiritual cutoff. Just like Enlil, who was Yaldabaoth, he put the firmament over the planet to keep you stuck in an artificial time analysis mechanism, a fixed position reality to where you're trapped in time. So that's why I said a lot of the spiritual cutoff is really the firmament being over the planet, it cuts off your spiritual gifts. It takes away the magnetism.
The Pleiadian light lock is what they call it, the firmament. It's light magic. And we know it as the Van Allen belt. Right. It's a high density radiation. Right. We in the middle of a bubble of radiation, worrying about radiation. Let that sink in for a minute. We in the middle of a bubble of radiation, worrying about radiation. We're gonna be radioactive.
Right. Hey, listen. Best way to explain it. You ever seen the movie Meteor Man?
Yeah, I ain't seen it in a long time, but I remember that. Who was in that? Was it Robert Townsend?
Yeah. They're just really telling you how intelligent, melanocytes are. Melanin. It's gamma radiation. Radiation is so intrinsic to the fact that no matter everything that you touch, you become it. That's how intelligent it is. That's why it's so hard for so-called Black people to get off, crack cocaine.
Like geometry.
Yep.
I see there's a lot of Starfish comments coming up real quick. I got one here, but this is a 5. Now, you said there was a difference between a 5-star and a 6-star Starfish, right? Was that
the 6-star is rare.
Got you. And you said that's because they are. Now, what was the difference? I know you said there was a difference. What was the difference between the two?
5-point star represents the planet Venus, the love goddess.
Got you.
Imagine Oshun created her own pet. There would be Starfish.
And do you know also you got starfish eating the coral reef farms too? Because
I think I saw that.
Yeah, the coral reefs also they control like the atmosphere. So a lot of the climate change aspects is really nature fighting back. So the starfish are eating the coral reefs because they use it as a mechanism to cool off the planet.
Yeah, I think I saw that in one of them videos you dropped recently, Bdell.
What's the primary component of a coral reef? Calcium.
Is it calcium?
Calcium. Right? Because you remember, the calcium is solidified from the crustaceans. The coral reef is built by crustaceans buildup of excrement. It's a very specific crustacean. That's why you can't grow Pacific flora and fauna in the Atlantic. It won't grow. The pH is off. The temperature is off. The water movement is off. And you can't grow Atlantic coral in the Pacific. It won't grow. It'll just die off and crumble. But you could drop a blank, what's called a blank, which like a concrete tube, and then the local crustaceans will congregate around it and start to build you a coral reef from the concrete, because the concrete is neutral.
Yeah.
Wow.
They'll do it with an old ship too. But you can't take it, once it start growing, you can't transplant it to another area that's not conducive to that flora or fauna. That's gonna die.
Almost like a tree, like it won't be able to continue to live without the roots, right?
Palm trees can grow in Canada, right? But some of the Canadian trees can't grow in the Caribbean. Right? So we got to remember that, because it's the same with the people, right? If we get up right now, get on the plane this time of year, and fly to Africa. When we step off the plane, we gonna get damn near dropped by the temperature.
That happened to me.
And the African gonna be looking at you like something wrong with you.
Yeah.
They got a different kind of heat. It could be the same temperature.
Yeah.
But they got a different kind of heat because the angle that they face the sun is not the same as the Americas.
Right.
And this how the melanated people from the different matriarchal haplogroups. You got the 12 daughters of Isis, right? Which makes the 13 tribes. And then you divide the world up into 12 regions. right? When you go into the Sumerian tablets, you find that the Americas was given to Tahuti. Africa and India was given to Enki. In the Middle East, that was all in the land of Enki. And that Europe and Asia was given to Set, Isis, Inanna. And then that's three major deities over a land. That's why they named Europe after Europa.
Yep.
Right? You gotta remember, Scotland and Ireland is named. Ireland is called Orisha land, and Scotta is Scotland. Scotland is called Scotland. Scotta was one of the Egyptian priestesses that went with her twin sister Scotia to settle in those island regions. They sent a different daughter into Greece, and they sent a different daughter deeper into what we call Europe. So they got all these different daughters, 12 daughters. The tribes in Africa, they all have a common male ancestor, but they got different motherlands.
Right.
Right? It was the same over here.
Interesting. But you pretty much went in on that, so.
Yeah, no, that's deep. I was trying to find a link because somebody was asking for the books. I got a Shy Lotus. I'm gonna get that link and put it in the chat for you in a minute. For the African Creation Energy. Matter of fact, if you Google AfricanCreationEnergy.com, you should find the link that'll pull up for Lulu and Amazon. That has their books on there. Excuse me, but nah, that's deep, man. So when we come to, because it's funny, we went all the way to an hour and we didn't even got to the daggone topic at hand, the war, but all this I feel like is relevant. When we come to what we're speaking about, right, and all these different things that are unfolding, like we got the whole, those of us who studied the work of Dr. York, right? How does this kind of correlate to, because I feel like this is definitely like the beginning of the end, and it's the cracking of the seal of the seven thunders or the seven trumpets sounding, you know what I'm saying, as we transition through this transformation that the planet is going through right now. How does all this kind of tie into what we're seeing right now developing over there in Iran with your boy DT going over there doing what he do?
You got to remember, first off, that this is all written in Morals and Dogma, Albert Pike. How World War III was going to start, what it was going to be about, who was going to be involved in it. But just a side effect. We brought up the Crystal City earlier, the Emerald Lake Crystal City, and the fact that the emerald is the crystal. But what we don't know is Al-Qadar, the green one, the emerald god. Melchizedek himself is Malachi. Right? And so he got troops that don't live here. And if they get here and he's in bondage, they can't stop them from getting them out. They are like Black Adams. The only thing I could think of to give you an understanding is Black Adam. With afros.
Listen.
And you know what's crazy? They show you in the movie The Man Who Fell to Earth, because the guy, he said, I'm looking for the Wizard of Risk. And he was the only one that was able to tune into the frequencies to manipulate the space-time continuum with a piano. He was manipulating the frequencies to open up portals to let his species in. Yeah, you gotta watch that movie, The Man Who Fell to Earth. They're really talking about Dr. Malachi Z. York, the man from Planet Riz. That's what that movie is.
It's the same story.
Yep, it's the same story. Yep.
And Malachi wrote Man from Planet Riz before that movie came out.
Yeah. A lot of stuff we seeing in entertainment came from his work, man. A lot of the stuff we seeing, like straight up.
That's because he was telling us the truth the whole time.
Right.
Remember, in the lodges, if they find one of us telling the truth, they gotta say it too. But they don't gotta tell us it's the truth. They could put it in a fictional novel. They could put it in a big screen theatrical performance. Like, we don't know that the Star Wars story Darth Vader is Enki. And Luke Skywalker is Marduk.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yoda is...
I'm sorry, but you said Darth Vader was Enki?
Yeah, Inky. They villainized the good guy.
Well, yeah, that's true. Because that goes back to the X-Men Apocalypse movie where they villainized the guy. So I got you.
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's the same thing. That's who Inky is. Thanos.
Okay.
Because he put all things in balance when he come. Right. The army that support Malachi, they called the Sons of Inky. They all brothers, literally. And they're not gonna have a negotiation. So the purpose of World War III and the nuclear scare, because the order was given no nuclear weapons, was to activate galactic presence in clear sight. Got nothing to do with nothing else. Because soon as they threatened to blow up an atomic bomb, that's when the whole stage collapsed. Ships everywhere. They already showing up.
Listen, before we got on this call, I was working with a client, and I was like, it came up about dreams. Like they had a really crystal clear dream recently and was sharing it with me. I'm like, yo, that's funny because I had a crystal clear dream. I think it was probably like, I want to say around 2011 or so. But I had a dream about this happening. And it's like, I could tell that dream is about to come true because that was the clearest, most profoundly lucid dream I ever had in my life. And it was literally the motherships coming and shutting shit down because they were trying to blow up the planet and it's not going to happen. And I'll never forget how clear that dream was, bro. It was crystal clear, man. It was nuts. But I say all that to say, for those who are concerned and nervous and scared, which rightfully so, I get it, they ain't dropping no nukes on this planet. The minute they try that, it's going to get shut down, like expeditiously. It's not happening, period. They can't if they wanted to.
They didn't already shut down a leaking nuclear reactor. Ship pulled up and like, nope, you're losing too much nuclear radiation, and they shut the whole factory down. And it was about to go be another Chernobyl. They got another one where they was trying to test fire a nuclear weapon from one of these third world countries, and they shot the missile in the air. The ship pulled up, dismantled the mechanisms in the ship remotely. And let the bomb drop, and it didn't do it. It didn't give them a nuclear reaction. But they seen clearly that they was being interfered with. All this is why you have to study more than basically what they tell you, because in the UFO community, and I studied a whole lot of UFO stuff because I thought it was BS, and found out that it was some real stuff in there. But anyway, in the UFO community, this stuff is common knowledge to them. Right? Just like in the so-called Black nationalist community, COINTELPRO and Rex 84 is common knowledge to them. But to the regular everyday Joe, they don't know what we talking about. Never heard it before. Right? So even in the medical field, they've been knowing about med beds since the 30s. Right? This is what the whole Adolf Hitler going into Tibet was all about. And he had to get the technology, and then he had to get the script. Right? So they was trying to find out how to clone one of the guys to make him pull rank on the emerging guy, but you only got one bite at the apple. You can't be the god of the earth twice. Right? And anybody that try that, the first god of the earth, Big Mama, gonna always come back and be like, nope, you can't. You already had your turn. Let the other babies get a chance to play. So we all take turns playing God.
Yeah, that's dope. Now let me ask you this, or either one of y'all could take this, but I'm pretty sure both of y'all know about it. So in regards to when all the conflict and the foolishness was going on with Saddam, right? I know there was, what was it? I think it was like a Stargate or a portal or something that they really was over there for when they disguised that war, that attack as
Gilgamesh tomb. They had just discovered the tomb of Gilgamesh.
Okay. Does any of that play a role in what we're seeing right now, or can you at least share like what was going on with that when that happened with that?
I know they found portals. They was a Stargate in Baghdad, and I was telling you that's on the 33rd parallel as well, just like Atlanta is. So there's a spiritual connection and significance with that as well. But you can go ahead and tackle that what he was saying, Rod.
Remember, I told you Obama is a clone of Akhenaten,
Right.
done under the Third Reich.
Mm-hmm.
Who's the older guy that had a higher rank than Akhenaten? It's Gilgamesh.
Mm.
It was Shamash,
Mm.
right? So, but they come from a different culture. But remember, all that's still in Inky's land,
Mm.
right? So they tried to clone Gilgamesh, but the problem is they scared they're gonna wake him up because he don't look dead to them,
Mm.
and they believe that he's still alive. So now they have him over here in one of these, I think in Area 51, in the observation room, just watching him to see if he's gonna get up.
Mm.
Right. The Stargate they found in Baghdad got a set of codes that the CIA wanted to try on him.
Mm.
They got the codes from Nazi Germany about how to activate the Stargate network to go from Arizona to Kemet to Tibet to Machu Picchu, you know, and a few other places, right? Without ever like walking from one room to the next.
Mm.
So they wanted to open the portals back up. The only one they had open at the time was the one that went from Arizona to Cairo,
Mm.
right? Which is Kemet,
Mm-hmm.
right? So when they invaded Iraq, it served several different purposes. One, Iraq and Afghanistan was reenacting the invasion of the Americas.
Mm.
Instead of being under George Washington, it was under George Bush.
Yep, and I think that a lot of that technology he got from Ashtar Command, and a great majority of that, that technology came from the Roswell crash as well.
Mm-hmm.
And Roswell is also on the 33rd parallel, just like Baghdad and Atlanta as well. They're all on the same parallel, so it's not a coincidence with that.
That's deep. Now, where does because there's another. It's not Area 51, but there's another one that's in Mexico. What is it? Dulce? Does what they're doing over there in Dulce? Does any of that have anything to do with what we're seeing or what we're experiencing right now in current time? Because they're doing a lot of stuff in Dulce.
All of the military bases have something to do with it, no matter which one you pick, because it's a global military action. But this is the way to shut the Earth down and reset the entire planet through the threat of war. Right. So whatever they're doing, whatever they got planned, is carrying on what Albert Pike told them to do. There was a Masonic secret in the open, and from there, it's going to trigger a reaction somewhere else. Everything they do is about action, reaction. Problem, reaction, solution. It can't come with a solution if there's no problem. If the world is not in danger of going into a global world conflict, there's no cause for somebody to step in to stop the world conflict. Remember, in the principle of hermetics, the law of polarity, the law of opposites, the law of cause and effect, all are at play right now. So while they having full-blown chaos in California, they having a full-blown parade in DC.
Fact.
Polar opposite things, but they carrying two different frequencies. Right? Also, when the last time you seen a military parade in DC?
Never for me.
I'll wait.
Right.
Yeah.
Because the military parade wasn't a parade, it was a victory tour. So whatever they had, whatever they was doing with the deep state, that was the final public declaration of victory. If they didn't launch military attacks on them when they had the parade, that means that they either got them all or the ones that left submitted.
Does that go back to the statement Trump made about we got them all?
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
Mm.
Because he been knew it, but not until he raised the flag is that phase of the war complete. The deep state gone.
Mm-hmm.
The Federal Reserve gone.
Mm.
Right? The only thing left now is to cause the war with Iran to collapse the global economy by forcing the price of oil to shoot through the roof.
Mm.
Imagine going to the gas station and it's $20 a gallon for gas.
Yeah, which they trying to do.
Right.
Right. So this is what it looked like. This war in the so-called Middle East. I still ain't found the Middle West. I still ain't found the Middle North or the Middle South, but we got a Middle East. So, so the war they got going on in the Middle East with a bunch of interlopers, you got to remember, Israel is not a real place. It's only a figment of the writer's imagination in the book called the Bible. It's never been a real place. And even if you read the book where they want it to be a real place, they sit there and tell you they don't got no homeland. That means they not from the source of the earth. Because everybody that's from the earth came from somewhere on earth. These are only people that don't have nowhere to belong on earth. This is why they got to give them a promised land. He got a promise to the land. He giving false promises because he don't run nothing either.
Okay. Look, this was one of my questions. Oh, go ahead, Bdell. Go ahead.
I was saying they show you that in the beginning of the movie Vampire in Brooklyn. Right in the beginning, they show you how they was exiled out of certain land masses, out of Egypt, vagabonds. They just came out with a new movie 28 years later, and they showing you the destruction of the nomads, those European Canaanites or whatever, they walking around naked and things of that nature. Yeah, it shows you in that. I don't want to spoil the movie for nobody, but they show you the Flugerods and the Darrows in that movie. People should see that.
Those are all royal families from other star systems, by the way.
Wow.
The Flugerods, the Psilocybins was brought by the Taros.
Yeah.
That's why all these old overweight farmers in the South, the best mushroom growers on the planet,
right?
It's in their DNA.
They had them in a movie too. Was it the movie with Pac them? What was the name of that movie? Pac and
Nothing But Trouble.
Yeah, they had them in that damn movie, bro. Like it just hit me just like the movie.
Yeah, the Darrows was in there too, because if you notice, that landmass was also, I think it was in upstate New York, and they had a cavern system that came from Hollow Earth where they was at, because it was on top of a big volcano. Because at the end of the movie, it shows you the destruction of it, and that the whole castle or the whole house went inside underground, basically, right back to where they started.
You know, Vampire of Brooklyn, that's how Eddie Murphy was telling us they look like us, but they ain't us.
Facts.
You remember I be saying that they vampires and we wear wolves. Right? The old Mississippian culture wore animal skins in the combat as a form of stealth. This is why when Chief Pontiac was fighting the French on Belle Isle, they said that some giant wolf-looking men came out of the darkness from behind them when Chief Pontiac was advancing from the front. Them old Mississippians. That's them 6'9" to 7'5" Shaquille O'Neal looking brothers, but they all was built like Big Tookie.
Oh yeah,
right.
And they all wore afros under the wolf. Right, the wolf pelt. Some of them had bear pelts, but after you seen a couple of wolves, they was all wolves to you at that point, because they was notorious with what we call today the tomahawk, which was a weapon of war. It was actually started off as a farmer's tool, and they used it in warfare because we was warriors on the farm, but we wasn't farmers fighting a war.
Right.
Because we had learned how to resolve beef over here, run that fade, and it's the end of it.
Right.
Which gave rise to, when they brought the firearm, gave rise to duels.
Yeah.
Right.
Shout out to the ancestor, Dr. Frances Cress Wesleyan. She broke all that down like very, 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 very deeply in the ISIS papers, like the pistol and how, you know, all that. Like she went into all that. But real quick, before because it was something that you said, Rod, I can't remember what it was, but Bdell, I didn't want to cut him off for sharing his comment, but whatever it was, and I was taking notes, it made me think about why is there, okay, for first part, why did they take the book of Enoch out of the Bible? And then what is the significance of the book of Enoch in regards to what like we're seeing now and experiencing in real time?
The plain and simple reason why the book of Enoch was taken out of the Bible, because it tells you exactly what's under the ice in Antarctica.
That was one of my questions too. Go ahead if you got more. I don't want to interrupt.
When they be talking about Tartaria, which means west of Rome, and they talk about the Barbary, they talking east of Rome, right? And Tartarus is Tartaria, is the extreme south east of Rome. So this is where it come from. Tartarus is spoken about with a description of the desert that was a major metropolis in Atlantis that's under the ice. But the ice is melting now. But they've already used sonogram to map out the land to discover that the Tartarus is the land under the ice as described by Enoch in the book of Enoch. But that's the reason they took the book out.
Now I know there's a lot of activity going on around Antarctica and, you know, the pole over there, and then there's different stories and different, I feel like, information out there. I feel like some of it has truth to it, some of it's a bunch of bullish. But in regards to what's going on, or in regards to Antarctica, how does that section or that area of the planet have to do with what we're experiencing and what we're seeing and dealing with now on the planet?
Okay, so you got to go back to why they went there. They found out that under the ice was Tartarus, and it's the only city that escaped the direct hits of the Pyramid Wars and the Vermanus Wars. Does that mean that whatever under the ice is a civilization intact that have a high level of technology? Based on the history that we given, technology from 1900 to the year 2000 moved faster than all of the technology from 1 AD to 1899.
That's facts.
That don't even make sense unless they discovered something that we didn't know.
Yep.
And then on top of that, if you notice, that's when they had that meeting, the deep state, they went to Antarctica and had a meeting with those Anunnaki interdimensional beings. And then if you notice, right after that, that's when they set up the doomsday clock.
So they tell you about the Bashinga tribe that they say they took from Africa to Antarctica and they thrived. That's not from an African tribe. They from Antarctica. They was the ones who telepathically told them how to thaw them out in the ice. And these is the ones that they had to talk to at the meeting, because they can do stuff with their mind that most of us don't even know we capable of doing.
Yeah.
So this is how they end up with what we call cryogenic technology. Right? So they have to teach them how to thaw the body out without causing the cells to rupture, which causes frostbite and a few other diseases. But it was them people, all Atlanteans. If you pull up Bashinga tribe on TikTok, I think 19 Keys might have talked about them before. Well, if you pull them up, you will see that they don't look like regular Africans. They was the Atlanteans that was under the ice.
Wow. So now, when Admiral Byrd, when what was it, General or Colonel, whatever his name was,
Admiral Richard E. Byrd.
Yeah, the pilot, when he flew into the inner Earth, was that a different atmosphere or environment, and from what we're talking about now? When
he flew in through the North Pole.
Okay. Got you.
Right. We got to remember that because everybody think he flew in through the South Pole.
That's which is Antarctica. I got you.
Right.
Got
So the Earth is a torsion field. Unless you in a fourth dimensional mind state, if fourth dimensionally, it's an infinite plane.
Mm.
The difference between fourth dimension and 3 dimension is wave versus particle.
Mm.
The waveform shows existence as an infinite plane. And you can look back to the distant past and to the distant future on the infinite plane and see all timelines. They show you in the X-Men when Apocalypse was walking between time and space, and he was walking on rainbows.
Mario
Right?
Brothers.
And so what they showing you is the mind is able to live in 2 realities simultaneously. That's why you need sleep. Because you're living with a split consciousness, which was deliberately done with the moon. Before the moon, we didn't need sleep. Right. Most of us don't know if you lay out the moon orbit and the Dark Knight satellite orbit, and you match it to holographic projections, it's going to give you the exact same coordinates that if you were to have a holographic projection on Earth, that you need one going north-south, one going east-west. We're talking equator and prime meridian.
And you read the book. You got to read the book by Norman Burgum, The Ringmakers of Saturn. It tells you that the holographic projection of the moon works in tandem with the magneto-hydrodynamic Cassini gaps. It's the ice that creates the subatomic particles that was created by those tall, shadowy beings that he was talking about. I think he said it was like 7 to 9 feet tall, black people. They are the ones who create that illusion. I call them Saturnians, or I also equate them with the 200 fallen angel aspect as well. Because that's how you cultivate the demiurge, their archons.
So what you just described is what is the particles required to reflect the light to project the reality off of the holographic projector system.
Yep.
Right. And so you got to have the projectors though.
Yeah.
Right. And then you can use the crystals, the ice crystals, as the light source. Right. And the particles of the ice crystals will allow you to project as if they was actual crystals in the holographic projector. But if you don't know how holograms work, everything that I'm saying, me and Bdell talking about right now sound like gibberish.
Right. It's really liquid crystal technology. It works in conjunction with all technological devices. That's how they're able to cloak themselves. They pull on the energy of the technology.
And they shift their vibrational frequency to a different spectrum of light. That's what that thing that the Predator used to touch on his wrist.
Yes, yeah.
The purpose of it is to bend the light around his form. That's why you've seen his silhouette. He's not actually concealed. He's just projecting what's behind him in front of him.
And you know what's funny? First of all, they got a new Predator coming out, because I did go see the 28 years later, that preview came up. But what you're talking about with the light and all that, that's in this book too, with the rays and all that stuff. But what you're saying too, Ra, is like when it comes to that, that's the being able to cloak themselves. That's what we talked about. I think it was us that we talked about, either the last one or one before, like what the Sasquatches do. Well, like what the Harrys do, like those who live in the woods and all that, like the what are they called? Not Sasquatch is what they call them.
Bigfoot.
Yeti, there you go. Yeah. That's the same like tech or the same abilities that the Yetis do. When
they do something a little different. Most of the time, you can't see them because they hear you thinking before you get there.
They can teleport.
Right.
But
don't they have the ability to cloak themselves in their environment as well too, though?
They don't. They are masters of camouflage.
Okay.
But they know you coming because they hear you thinking.
Right. I got you.
They're highly telepathic.
Yep. Okay.
And a lot of people, the perception of it, they think they're like savages. They actually worked in conjunction with the indigenous people on how to cultivate matriarchal civilizations. And it's also one of those things where you have to delineate the energy of it. Like when you see a Bigfoot walking all hunched over like he's a animalistic or whatever, that's a fake one. The ones that stand upright and walk straight, those are the real ones. That's a real
They showed you in Star Wars, Chewbacca.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, also, the record of the settlers said that the Bigfoots used to fight with the tribes. We be forgetting about that. Right. And this is one of the things, the ones in Europe, they called them hairy barbarians. They was critical in exiling the Moors from Europe. When you go back to studying European Moorish history, all they keep talking about is they was getting whooped by these hairy giants. But the Mississippian tribes was cool with them. It was, when we went to war, a lot of times they thought that, remember, they killed the bison because we wore bison skins, and when at nighttime we come up out of herd of bison and slaughter them. Ain't nothing they could do.
Right.
And they thought that the bison was transforming into soldiers fighting them. That's why they say if you kill every bison you kill one of us.
Right.
So they thought that we was turning into bisons, literally, but we wasn't. But some of the tribes that lived in the plains literally wore bison skins, and they walked among bisons as if they was a bison. They became later called buffalo soldiers. But they make a parody of them as a secret society on the Flintstones called the Water Buffalo.
Oh, wow.
Listen, I got a good question. Shout out to brother Yusuf Muhammad. He wants to know, can we discuss blowing into the curved instruments like trumpets? And is that symbolism as into the whisper into the ear that awakens the consciousness?
You want that, Bdell?
Well, even when you look at the word like instrument or instrumental or whatever, the word mental's in there for a reason, because it has an ethereal energy to where you're able to tap into a certain consciousness. Like trumpets, it contains an ethereal energy. Harps contain an ethereal energy. These is basically spiritual instruments to resurrect the carbon body. That's what it's basically used for. It can manipulate. Best way I can explain it is that frozen sound is nothing but frozen geometry. That's all it is. That's what basically is. It's frozen geometry. So it can manipulate, subatomic particles and energy.
It's a good book. It's a good book that talk about. It's called The Hermetic Code in DNA, and it talks about the musical scale in relation to the Hermetic Code in the genetics.
Yeah. Well, how does that? Because, to me, I feel like all that kind of ties in together, especially when we talk about the number 7, right? You got the 7 musical notes, you got the 7 chakras, you got the 7 colors. Like, how does all that kind of correlate together? Or does
I am number 7.
7 is personification of God, because Krishna is the outer manifestation of Shiva, and Shiva means 7. So that's all equated to Krishna, which is Christ consciousness. Because that's when you unlock your scroll of all. That's when you reach the apex of God consciousness or Christ consciousness.
Yes, sir. Yeah. This is a whole.
Also, every 7 years, you got an entirely different cellular structure.
Wow.
And then you got 7. 7 is very significant.
Yeah. So at the end of that series of 7 years, the baby that was born don't exist no more. You're a whole new being.
That's true. Because if you think about the cycles, like you go from infant to 7 years old, that's one cycle. Then from 7-year-old, you go to pre-adolescence. From 7 to 14 is one cycle. And then you go from 14 to 21, which is, you know what I'm saying? So when you assess the life cycles, it's in 7-year increments. That's dope.
And then you got to go through 3 cycles of 2-bar cane in order to be a man.
Look, and the way things been going, every 7 days in these Ashe Screech, you get the big 3 show, boy, because this thing been hot. These last 3-4 days. Boy, this thing been hot, man, for real. Yes, sir. Yeah, now that's deep. So where do y'all both, and whichever one of y'all want to take it. But I would love to hear your opinions and perspectives on where do we go from here? Being that, okay, we're in the war, you know, the U.S. bombed Iran, Where
I
do
ain't in
we
no
see?
war.
Well,
Right.
I should say the corporation is in the war, right? And then all this food. But where do y'all see like the whole I would say, like, where do you see the planet going from where we are now to by the time we speak and meet again?
Well, when you're looking at the whole geopolitical apparatus on an international level, it's one of those things is that you just got to let, you know, these deep state provocateurs, let them cancel themselves out. See, a lot of people think that we supposed to be doing something. Just let them, you know what I'm saying, kill off each other. Just let them do what they need to be doing. It's nothing. The only thing that you need to be doing right now is staying grounded and working on your spiritual journey as you have the house of cards fall. Because, you know, once we go through a process of reconstruction, that's where the meek shall inherit the earth. Where the first shall be last and the last shall be first, whatever the case may be when it comes to that phrase. But you know what I mean. But it's one of those things where it's like it's a waiting game.
And the word for meek is effeminate. The feminine.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, shout out to everybody who sent the super chats, man. I'm trying to keep up, tribe, so I appreciate all y'all. You know, we appreciate the love and support. And real quick, I'm gonna throw up the cash apps for brother Bdell and brother Rod as well. You know, so we can support, man, because they've been coming through, holding it down, and blessing us with a lot of wisdom, a lot of knowledge, a lot of insight, inner vision, understanding, overstanding, understanding. You know, going on in these Ashe streets over the last couple of weeks, man. So I definitely want to give thanks to all of y'all, and also give thanks to them. And, you know, I'm going to share their cash apps as well so we can show the love and support. But in regards to, like, us not doing anything, do you feel like there is the threat of any type of bloodshed on the soil of the Americas?
Now, the only thing, my opinion on that, now, when it comes to the ICE thing or whatever, eventually they're going to come after us because there's a thing called Project Pogo and Project Zypher.
Mm-hmm.
Also works in tandem with the book that Henry Kissinger put out called White House Years. And Henry Kissinger, he was the Secretary of State of 1975, and he came out with the National Memorandum 200, and it was basically demonstrating an extermination program that's projected to so-called Black people in America. And I think that's going to eventually come full circle once, you know, the deep state shadow government is on their last leg.
I can't wait to see the video of his execution. I want to see if he groveled.
Right.
Oh,
you know
man.
why they never found Deep Throat from Watergate?
Why?
Because it was Henry Kissinger.
Oh, it was? Really? Wow.
Henry Kissinger was in with the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers as part of something called the Lazarus Group that was searching for eternal life. And they were searching through old technology, trying to find the sacred regeneration chamber known as the sacred sarcophagi. And he was using his political influence through the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers to keep whoever got in that office on a leash. And they controlled by the Black nobility, which we call Black Jews. Right? They tell him what to do, then he come out and do it. Same with Alan Greenspan, who ran the Fed for the Federal Reserve, adjusting the interest rates, slowly strangling our financial capabilities, inflation and interest, and taxation. Because your taxation is determined by inflation and interest.
Facts.
And that's another question that I was going to pose to y'all too, in regards to, because we see a lot of stuff collapsing and all that. I don't know if y'all seen this, but in Florida, I believe DeSantis passed a bill to where now gold can be used as a currency. Do y'all see like the whole collapse of the financial infrastructure collapsing? Do you see like a transitioning of the currency going from what it is now to a different form?
Yes. It's the most clearest, and most of us was asleep when Trump signed, United States Treasury signed on to the BRICS under Trump.
Yep.
We weren't watching.
So they're a part of the BRICS? I thought the BRICS was
not the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve have nothing to do with the BRICS nations, but the United States Treasury, which is the decentralized banks are the collective clans, right? Because remember, they was using economic hitman to shut Big Mama banks down on the land so they can impose a fiat system, right? But in order to have a ceasefire agreement and to fulfill the 200 years blood oath, right? Then we have to educate ourselves about the condition. So rather than keep fighting them, we let the young chiefs do what they do, see if they can figure it out. So it put our bank on hold because Big Mama don't spend no money when you at war. She shut down all of the coffers. We have been in a perpetual state of war for 500 and some years. Do the math. How long have we been restricted from our wealth? We ain't had no poverty problems before the settlers came. We didn't know what poverty was over here. All of the poverty philosophy came with capitalism straight from the European systems that was imposed upon us. They don't work for us. We see that. And that's why they tried to always exclude us from everything, because anything that we see that don't work right, we're going to try to fix it. It's just our nature.
Then eventually, if you understand the 80-year cycle block theory, they talk about how everything operates on the seculum. And I think during the time of the process of you had the stock market crash, and then that's when they implemented, Social Security, where they turned this into humanoid real estate. The same thing is actually taking place right now, to where we transition into the digital age, where you merge human with cybernetics. Best way that shows that demonstration is the movie. It's on Hulu. I forgot. It's called Paradise. They had the reset. It took place, but their form of reconstruction was based on the synthetic golden age. That's based on technocratic sorcery. So the reset happened. Then that's when they implemented the smart cities.
So I had to figure out how to go head to head with AI. Emojis.
You said emojis?
We know what emojis mean.
They're sigils.
We can tell a story with emojis, but AI gonna glitch.
Yeah.
So you go back to some of my posts from 2019, 2020, you see it laced with emojis because I'm telling stuff straight out in the open, using public format, but the emojis is jamming their computer. I had to go against the corporateocracy, the techocracy, the oligarchy, and the royal families, right? They was easy to trump because I got the blood and the right, right? Then I had to go up against the religious establishment. All roads led back to one person. And then that road led back to Switzerland. So all of the religions, it's only three: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. The rest of them are systems. Buddhism is a system. All of the branches of Hinduism are systems. Jainism is a system. Right? So when we trace the religions back, we end up in the Vatican. When we trace the Vatican back, we ended up with Black Jews in Switzerland.
Now, with all this happening in the fall of the church, the fall of the Vatican, and those whatever you want to call them, reptilians or whatever you want to call them over there in England and here, when does the restoration of all of the belongings and all of the property that was pillaged and raped and looted from all of our, ancestors across the globe, when do we see those rightful artifacts and, historical legacies, sentimental value, monumental statues, whatever the case may be? When do we see all that?
I'm gonna tell you something that's it's in the public, but very few people know it. They had a design for the motherland, for Africa, for a massive museum, the largest museum on the planet, for restored African artifacts. we also have a similar museum already designed to be built here for all of the indigenous artifacts. Some of the other ones are still under construction, like Australia haven't came up with theirs, right? But they do have architects working on the design, and it got to be friendly to the tribes, right? And some of the islands don't want a museum, not like they don't want a remembrance of what they suffered,
right?
Right? They just want to move forward and get past all of the BS. Then you have other places where the cultures is diversified and haven't been determined how to set the museum up, like South America. Right. But the American version of the museum is going to be huge, and it's going to have artifacts from the whole of Turtle Island, North, Central, and South America. But South America countries can come together to build their own if they choose to. The resources to build it is going to be there. Right. So it's whether they might have teams assembled, but I haven't heard about them. Right. I heard about the ones that was contemplating the design in Australia because they had to go talk to a lot of the older Aborigines down there that still live the village life to determine if they wanted to participate in the design and stuff like that. So I get it on the Wind Talker channel that they've been talking to architects about it. But the one for Africa is to receive all of that Egyptian artifacts, the Zulu artifacts, all of those they took from West Africa, Guinea, right, Congo, Ashanti artifacts. All of that got to be returned.
Yep.
Now that can't happen until they get done unifying the continent. Once they get done unifying the continent, they might start, the construction might have already started over there. But once they get done unifying the continent, that's when they're going to really go full throttle with the museum and taking back their artifacts. Right? India is doing something. They building a temple that's going to mark the years of the history of the struggle of the earth. So they got something a little different. It won't be a museum. It'll be some kind of temple dedicated to one of the Hindu gods. So, but before these artifacts is returned, they're looking for the unification so that everybody can design their own section of the museum.
Well, metaphysically speaking, I think the dismantling process, when you look at the centrifugal and the centrifugal forces of nature of the man and the woman coming together, that creates a tachyon energy, which will literally make the moon fall. So our convergence in itself is one of those things. It could be used as a spiritual catalyst to make the system fall because you collapse time, when you're talking about the demiurge, basically. So unification is going to be the precursor to the end of this Metatronic overlay, of what I call the third dimension. Because there's no evolution for the third dimension. Why you think everything is getting worse?
Yeah.
That's why they give you the illusion of progressiveness with hedonistic concepts that's based on inversion.
Yep. Yeah. No, that's facts. What do y'all think about this comment? Tiamat equals Mami Wata as a symbol.
I don't have no dispute for it.
No, I agree.
Okay. Yeah. Nah. This is this is it right here, man. So right now, because all these, like y'all said, Trump is a double agent, and he's connected to both sides of this so-called war, whatever you want to call this thing, this conflict. Like, what is the ultimate outcome for each side? Like, what is the black hats pushing for? What is the white hats pushing for? Like, what are they trying to accomplish by what they're doing now with this war?
Order out of chaos, New World Order, Agenda for 2030, the Sustainable Development Goals, That's what they want. Everything they want to do is based on technocratic sorcery. They even show you in the movie Terminator Genesis when John Connor came back from the future to fight his old self.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's stapled in the year of 2029. So that everything they doing is really to cause chaos. The reason I said that Donald Trump, a lot of people look at him as a, benevolent entity. They think that is because like he's really putting out the chess pieces for the restoration of the matriarch. But he's not doing that because he wants to. He has to do that. That's a part of his process.
His Earth assignment.
Yeah, that's a part of his assignment.
Let me ask y'all this: do y'all think he's doing all that on his own accord, or does he have like handlers handling him?
Nope.
Not handlers like the deep state either. Like, are there higher like beings that's kind of like handling him, or like who's he taking his orders from?
Okay, so all orders right now is coming from Raven Rock, Colorado. Raven Rock, Colorado is the home of the FEMA continuity government transfer team. They got chiefs from the land that many of us have never seen before working with high-ranked government officials and military officials in Raven Rock. The Raven Rock Command is in contact with what we call the Galactic Federation. The Galactic Federation cannot intervene unless we go to nuclear levels. Otherwise, we have to solve the problem on Earth with what we have on Earth using people from Earth. But the people from Earth is fighting people that's not from Earth. And the only reason you know they're not from Earth is because they don't have a home nowhere on Earth.
And they talk about that. I remember Dr. Malakazi York, Freedom Master Teacher, he had said something about during the process of World War II, they had almost cracked the Earth. And that's when they had a meeting in a council with the Galactic Federation. And if they was going to intervene, they was going to come to the surface and eradicate their whole governmental system.
Do you feel like that's what we're seeing? Oh, my bad. Go ahead, bro.
No, but it's one of those things. Like I said, I think they can't infringe upon our free will, just like Rod said. Yeah,
that's a real thing too.
They'll only intervene if it goes to nuclear war, just like it did when they cracked the Earth, because it was manipulating everything that was taking place in the city of Shambhala in Argartha inside Hollow Earth.
That's what really made because the inner Earth was the ones that called the Galactic Council to in the first place, because the rules of free will was being violated on the Earth. Well, what you ever hear Bobby Hemmett talk about the Great Debauchery? That was the cloning of human slaves, sentient beings that was put into a genetic, whose genetics was manipulated to prevent them from having ascension rights, so that they could never surpass the ones that was manipulating them in the laboratory. Right? If they raise their conscious level too high, their body break down. This is what happened to Stephen Hawking.
Yep.
So sounds just like in the Matrix, like in the beginning of the Matrix. Go ahead.
Yeah. So with Stephen Hawking, you gotta remember he was the captain of the row team. Right? He was an athletic young man, but his intelligence rose so high, but he couldn't raise his gold liquid. He could only raise the silver liquid. So it causes the body to begin to shut down in order to function.
Yep. It's called the Hopefield Network. The Hopefield Network, he didn't have enough data space to raise up that Kundalini consciousness. Like you said, it's a cap consciousness because a lot of their genetic format has a lot of sulfur in it, so it blocks the spinal column. So you don't get enough G-force for that resurrection fire.
Right, because they use that sulfur calcium deposits in that chamber in the spine, which causes anybody that tries to ascend to break down and to cause their body to malfunction. Most of them just have a flat out stroke and be done.
Yep.
But Stephen Hawking, if you pay attention, he designed all of his handicap equipment as he was becoming handicapped. So he can continue to communicate.
Wow.
Right. He the one came up with the technology where if you were quadriplegic, you can blow into a straw and talk.
That's deep.
Right. All that stuff was based on physics. Right. If you go back to this debate Francis Cress Welsing had on PBS some years ago.
Was it on the Donahue, the one that was on the Donahue show? Phil Donahue show?
I don't think it was on Donahue, but it was a PBS special. And she was explaining the defect in the spine caused by the calcium sulfur deposit that builds up that causes them to break down. Some of them become serial killers because of it.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, that's deep. Oh, whoa. Whoa. Can you say that one more time?
We gotta run that back.
Yeah, I think we gotta run that. We gotta run that back, man.
The serial killer come from the block chamber or tunnel for the gold liquid to rise. Right. Then it's made worse when they inherit what's called the Iceman inheritance. We talked about that. But most people don't know is the Iceman inheritance, the psychological development Bobby E. Wright wrote about in psychopathic racial personality. Only it don't have to be racial. It could be gender-based, age-based. But whatever it is that causes the trigger is how they express their serial killer mentality. Right? Because they can't raise that gold liquid, they can never download the temperance of the mother line in order to properly ascend. So they always malfunction. And when the malfunction come out, it makes an over exaggerated display of the psychopathic racial personality that came from the Iceman inheritance.
In case in point, Jeffrey Dahmer, and he's in bloodline connection with Vladimir the Impaler, who was also known as Count Dracula.
Yeah.
And he was the dark-skinned melanated brother.
Yep. Who killed all
that go back to Vampire in Brooklyn.
Facts. See, everything come full circle.
Yeah.
And also go back to that movie Twilight.
Yep.
That sparkling in the sun wasn't pale skin, that was prismatic melanin.
Wow.
They just played us and made it look like it was some fanciful stuff. The girl that was being seduced in Twilight, they were showing you how the Big Mama got seduced when the Dirty Moor married her right before he killed her off. Remember, they was going to kill the girl off. Right? That was why they was going to kill her off, because she wasn't one of them. That's the same thing they was doing to the Big Mamas. Now that she's dead, he didn't marry her. He inherited her wealth. And the only people protesting was the ones who turned into the wolves. The ones that the vampires said they look like kin. So we gonna call them lichens.
Lichen. That's deep.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I forgot what the movie is called. They even got a movie about that, about the lichens. Is it Underworld?
Underworld. We go back to the movie Underworld. The goal was for them to create a hybrid among the vampire and the werewolf.
Yeah. Sure as hell was. Wow.
And iconography is real. There's a guy on YouTube right now. He talks about his story on how he seen like an 8-foot tall werewolf, a black guy, when he was a child. Had like a 40-inch head and everything. Killed one of his friends.
So
yeah,
let me
YouTube somewhere.
Let me ask y'all this, because I know y'all remember the movie The Island of Dr. Moreau, right? Where they was doing all the splicing and the genetic modifications and all that, which to me I feel like they was just practicing the
That's the
cloning.
story of Inky.
Mm.
What's it
Masters,
called? What's the movie
the
called?
Island of Dr. Moreau.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
But what made him write the movie was the Boys of Brazil project.
Now, see, I didn't see that. What was that about, did you?
The Boys of Brazil was a story about them cloning Adolf Hitler
Oh wow.
in Argentina. But they wasn't cloning Adolf Hitler. They was cloning Akhenaten.
Yeah. I remember you telling us about that, though.
Because you got to go back. He sent Mussolini in the from Italy into Egypt and Ethiopia.
Yeah. Wow.
They just needed to get Akhenaten's money.
Facts.
And remember, Akhenaten was hidden. Because in the story, because he comes from the wars of the 18th dynasty, they say he just disappeared. He didn't disappear. They buried him in a secret location so that nobody could get a hold of his physical body.
Right, because if I'm not mistaken, is it not Akhenaten attributed to being like extraterrestrial?
They say he's a hybrid.
Hybrid from what? Because I've heard stories of that. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, I want to say I heard that from Dr. Blair, but I don't want to be quoted. But
It's several different sources that talk about him being there. I mean, they even had a special on it on History Channel.
For the elongated skulls.
I think it was the History or National Geographic. One of them channels had there was asking the question if Akhenaten was an alien. And remember, Tutankhamun never ascended to the throne before he was assassinated. Right? But he wasn't killed for real. He was extracted. His body double was the one they killed and buried. Right? This is the same as the story of Tupac Shakur.
You beat me to it, cause listen, I was about to jump back in there with my boy Pac, boy. You know, there's a big Pac house over here, man. So can you kind of enlighten us with the extraction of Tut and Machiavelli, aka Tupac Amaru Shakur?
Well, Tupac, it's a couple of things that you know that the crime scene is staged. One is when you pull up the car and you go to images, you're gonna see 3 distinctly different BMWs. One have chrome rims, one has gold rims, and the other one is a hatchback. You have 3 different backgrounds to each one of the 3 different cars filmed from the passenger side. So that means that it was 3 different Las Vegas locations. And if you know anything about movie contracts, if you film in a movie that have an instrumental plot, nobody's allowed, law enforcement, government, they're not allowed to divulge the plot of the movie or the filming of the movie, because that's a spoiler for the movie and it causes the movie to be compromised. So when you look at all of the footage from that night, is owned by one entertainment company that's set up in Europe, right? And if you look at, it's always some kind of tell that information is not correct. The date off, the weight off, the age off, the sizes is off. All this is done in order to maintain the integrity of the film that's being made. This is what you call a long run script in Hollywood. They haven't done these type of movies since the 30s. A long run script was a movie that used to last 2 or 3 days. But it took years to film it. Excuse me, y'all.
Yeah. So that, you know what's funny? I love it that we're going here, that we're here right now with this part of the conversation. Because the whole time, that whole situation with Pac, I just remember like the timing of everything it just didn't sit to me like it was right. Like it didn't sit right. So when you bring in the whole Machiavelli aspect, when he dropped Machiavelli, I'm like, man, if anybody had the ability to do some shit like that, it would be Pac. I feel like I don't know how many other people could do it, but if anybody could do it, it would be Pac. And so the fact that he dropped Machiavelli, I think not too long after he transitioned, if I'm not mistaken, but all the music he had prior to that, but then of course Machiavelli spelled backwards is I am alive, right? So Machiavelli, the Don Illuminati 7-day theory. It took him 7 days for that whole thing to play out, right?
Remember, the original title was the 3-day theory.
No, see, I didn't know that. I never heard of that before.
It had different artwork too, didn't it?
Wow,
slightly different.
I did not know that. I don't remember the Machiavelli the 7
Okay,
days.
so the plan was changed at the last minute.
Yeah.
So he had to go from the 3-day theory to the 7-day theory because they knew that there was hits on Tupac. They knew he was being extorted by the Star Whackers called the JDL because it's in his FBI file. They knew that some dirty Moors out of New York was behind him getting shot at Quiet Studios. Now, originally he was supposed to get shot, be pronounced dead the day he got shot, and then 3 days later, mysteriously he not dead, back out in the public in order to reenact the crucifixion story. What changed it to the 7-day theory is they still trying to get him in the hospital. But he ain't in the hospital. Another couple of spoilers to pay attention to is go back and look at the footage of the MGM Grand. You will see Orlando have on the number 13 on his jersey. Go to the Outlaws in front of the hospital and you're going to see a couple of 13 jerseys. 13 is the seal of the Queen Mother. That means his mama gave permission for him to be extracted. That's why when people kept saying, Tupac, she was like, leave Tupac alone. He lives his life. Most people didn't catch that.
Yeah.
She didn't say he lives, past tense. She say lives, current, present tense, his life. We need to worry about these boys out in the street that's still getting shot down like animals.
Yeah.
Right? So she deflected the fact that she just told you he was still alive by telling you to focus on the other children that's dying. Yeah, Nipsey was extracted also.
This is just from my own independent research and my own theory. I think a lot of these people, like, Tupac, Prince, Michael Jackson, I think a lot of these individuals, they really get access to Hollow Earth. Is that where you think they going?
Michael Jackson went to the Philippines. Tupac went to New Mexico to a Native American reservation. Biggie Smalls went to Jamaica. Leah and Left Eye went to Sabi's ranch, his second ranch, not his main ranch, in Honduras. Who else you want to know about?
Wait, while we think about that, let's jump on this because I've seen this in the comments several times too. Y'all forgive me, Tribe. I'm trying to keep up, man. But I do remember the brother Simeon that they kept trying to kill, and then he would regenerate.
Simeon Toko.
Yeah, just like the starfish. Can we kind of tap into that real quick because they've been turning up about Simeon.
Simeon Toko, he was a different extraterrestrial species than the sons of Enki. He had different abilities. You got to remember, you can kill the body, you can't kill the soul.
Right, that part.
Right. So since you can't kill the soul, a powerful soul can reconstitute a body out of the molecules that surround the auric field of the soul. And Simeon Toko was that advanced where he was capable of doing that. It's the same as activating the macabre.
Yeah. That's dope. because I've mentioned this before, but I don't believe I got the answer I wanted. But I do believe you can give that answer to me. So when a person dies, right? A person passes away, they transition. There have been studies that show after the exact time that the person is pronounced dead, right? There is a difference in how much the body weighed at that time of death, and then in a very short period of time after the death. I.e., I would feel like that's when the spirit, you know what I'm saying, the orc.
Yeah, they can tell you the exact. I forgot, it's like 26 grams or something.
Mhm.
Right. That when the spirit leave the body, you lose like 26 grams of weight.
Yep.
Mm.
That's the light body exiting.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah,
We think we just the body, man. As long as we think we just the body, we behind the curve. Soon as we realize that the body is like clothes that we change for eternity.
Yeah.
Right. And then we change the reality in increments in 26,000 year cycles.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that's real. And that's what made me become fearless, because I'm like, the worst that can happen is death. Okay, that happens damn near every night when you go to sleep. It's damn near the same thing as death. Like, it's like for real. Or deep meditation, you astral project. I mean, I don't see a real big difference, because
that's why Tupac said my only fear of death is reincarnation, because he know it is not a fear. Why would you be scared to die if you know you're gonna be? They just taught us this in the last 300 years to mourn at funerals. It used to be a graduation celebration when you passed over here. They still do it in New Orleans. It's called a jazz funeral. Look it up. They be dancing down the street with the coffin on the shop. Pallbearers do. They have a whole parade.
Yeah.
They don't drive no procession to the funeral home. They walk you down there, gigging the whole way.
Yeah, they got the horns, they blowing, they turning up.
Suits and everything.
Yeah, there was a movie I was watching where they was showing a funeral in New Orleans, and they was getting it in, man. It was just like the little song with the fans, with them girls at, like, they were pretty much, they wasn't doing that one, but they were doing a line dance. They was getting it in too.
Yeah, that's a coded song. And the boots on the ground is the shit kickers. Where them fans at? They need to know where to kick the shit.
I know that's right. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah,
that's down south lingo. That ain't up north lingo there.
Facts.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's what's up, man. Listen, so real quick, because I know we running on the time, but you know, I definitely, as always, love this conversation, man. I can go all night with these, man, for real. Like, I really could, man, because it just, you know, not only us just kicking it, but the love, you know what I'm saying, and to be able to make the impact with the tribe, you know, with the way that we do, man, it's definitely it's dope, for real. Like we the big three bringing that heat, like Miami, man, back in the LeBron days and all that there. So we definitely
this Chicago Bulls triangle offense right here.
Yeah, I said that to one of y'all this week. I said, but it was when they got coach, like when Phil came and ran that triangle. Yes, sir. Nah, that's what's up.
Coach had to go sit down because the GOAT came back.
Oh yeah. He didn't like it, but hey, it is what it is. Yes, sir. Nah, that's what's up. So I tell you what, man, for that, before we do get out of here though, what can y'all leave with the tribe until we can have this divine big three triangle offense meeting again?
Be very meticulous of your surroundings during this time period, because as we get through the Great Awakening period, a lot of these sleeper cells is going to be activated. We're going to be infiltrated from the inside out, kind of like the same thing when you're talking about what took place in New York in 2001. So just really, you know, just be very meticulous of your surroundings, being in bigger crowds or whatever. Just be on point and stay on your square, because you never know what's going to happen, especially if you live in a city that's really industrialized, because industrialized cities, they have a lot of factories. And a lot of those factories, that's when they bring in these sleeper cells and they give them jobs and lucrative opportunities to make money until they get that phone call and get that text message. So it's basically the same thing that happened on Red Dawn. So just be prepared for anything.
You know, remember in September 11th, before that incident, they said they was walking around with a suitcase full of money. All of them.
Yep.
Who's walking around with a suitcase full of money?
The fake 19.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that they were saying was going to pilot school.
Mm.
Yep.
I don't know how they was able to fly into them buildings and then pop up over in Saudi Arabia and Morocco.
Mm-hmm.
But about 6 of them popped up.
Does that have anything to do with the similarities to the story of Bin Laden?
Yeah, Bin Laden was a Bush
CIA,
asset.
right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
That's why they had to kill off the SEAL Team 6, because that wasn't Bin Laden that they shot.
Mm-mm.
Mm-hmm.
It was one of his doubles. Remember, Bin Laden walking around with a whole dialysis machine with him
Yep.
in the caves of Afghanistan. That's the most absurdly ridiculous thing I ever heard in my life. He's outwitting the U.S. military with all of their drones, satellites, reconnaissance planes, foot soldiers, and he dragging the whole dialysis machine around with him.
Make that make sense.
Right. That don't even make sense.
A couple of his brothers at the 9/11 impact time was having a meeting with the old man in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
When they grounded all of the planes, their plane was the only one allowed to leave.
Wow.
You can't tell. You can't tell me if the brother on the south side of Chicago, right, just went downtown and shot the mayor, and he got a brother at home when the police come. He going to jail even if they don't keep him.
Right.
Mm.
Everybody in that house going to jail until the police sort it out.
Mm.
But they let the Bin Ladens fly back with military escorts.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
That don't make sense to me.
Got to be more careful, boy. I'm telling you.
Also,
boy.
you know, one of Bin Laden's other brothers died in a plane crash on the Bush farm in Texas, leaving from a high classified meeting.
Mm.
Mm-mm.
And the old man Bush was tied in through his secret, his CIA channels into the old Bin Laden family, the builders for the Royal Crown of Saudi Arabia. That's how they got their wealth.
Mm.
Like they like had a monopoly on construction of royal palaces,
Mm.
right? And they was in business with the old man Bush because he was an oil tycoon, part of the OPEC Aramco alliances.
Mm.
All this stuff tied back to oil and money.
Yeah, I remember that series Landman that's on Netflix too.
And then to piggyback on top of that, you really got to pay attention to the numerology aspect of it too, because one of the buildings fell around 1028, and that's the 128 code that is acclimated to the Golden Gate Bridge. So it's really just got to look at everything. Everything is symbolism. That's how, like, when it comes to the basketball games, these movies coming out, it's a codex, it's a language, it's an unspoken language that they can only tap into, and for those who are actually seers.
You ever hear me talk about watching wrestling, and I can read what's going on while watching wrestling without ever watching no news?
We talked about it because I remember something we were talking. I think that show was just me and you. We were chopping it up, and something wrestling came up, and I remember you saying that.
Yep. So remember when I was saying the word ISIS coming from the Greek Isis? They got a Spanish chick just came out on I think it's Women in Wrestling. Her name, she's Spanish, she's from Latin America, and her name is spelled ISIS, but it's pronounced in the Latin pronunciation, not the English. Right. And I was like, there go your confirmation right there. But it's so many storylines. Like they got a girl in WWE named Stephanie Vakir. She's from Argentina. She is playing the role of the rise of the Queen of the South.
Wow. Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Right.
You talking about from Kemet or from where? From here?
Yeah.
The Queen.
She's from Argentina.
Queen of the South is about drug dealing.
Argentina, South America.
Yeah. I remember that. I watched that documentary, actually. I remember that.
Right. So remember the movie Apocalypto?
I remember that too, yeah. Yep.
Right. That was talking about the South American tribes being invaded.
Yeah.
Right. So remember, they say at the end, the South will rise again. That's because the South is up, North is down.
Yeah.
But they gave us the cardinal directions wrong in order for us to come into life disoriented.
Yep.
Inversion.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because even like the Horn of Africa, like it's actually the opposite. Like it's supposed to be the base of it is down at the bottom and the horn is facing up, right?
Yeah.
And it's correct, topology or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, the whole planet, the whole map is upside down. Eurocentric, meaning centered from Europe. It's not centered like if the map would have been centered from over here, then the Americas would look drastically larger than Europe.
Facts.
Right. Yep.
But it's centered in Europe, so Europe looked like the biggest thing on the map.
Yep.
But it ain't.
Hell, I would dare to say, the island of Dominica and Haiti is bigger than Europe, way bigger. I remember flying over there, man. I couldn't believe how big that landmass was. I had no idea that island was that big. It was huge.
Which one? Haiti, Dominica? I mean,
yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, yo, I did not know it was that big of an island until I actually, went there. But I got a good question here. They said Bonafide Queen Bree wants to know what is the purpose of them staging the transitions of like Pox and
they're not staged, they're extractions. It's a difference. The extraction, the purpose of the extraction is to prevent somebody from getting killed for real. You only extract somebody when you confirm that there's a hit or contract on their life. Remember Tupac said, I did everything righteous by the rules of war?
Yep.
That's what I'm talking about. If you go back to T. Rogers' interview, he tell you about the discussion he had with Tupac. If you pay close attention to what he's saying, this is supposed to be after the so-called death of Tupac. Because he said Tupac told him, right, that he got shot on their land in New York, but if he had to go out, I was going to go out on my own land. Right? You got to remember the highest chief in the Americas on the Western Rockies was Tupac. And the highest chief on the east of the Appalachians at the time by birthright was Christopher Wallace. So they reenacting the story of Sitting Bull sitting on his post, allow us to get sacked on the West Coast by the invaders. So the West Coast chief publicly thrashed the East Coast chief, right? Not because he mad at him, because he ain't mad at him for real. He got to get the message out of who was sitting on their post. And so the only way we know if it's true is Biggie not going to put up much resistance, right? That's called taking the public flogging. He take his public thrashing, and then he passed the crown to Chief Crazy Horse, ODB, big baby Jesus Osiris.
Yeah.
But go back to the name. Who is Big Baby? Baby. Who is Big Baby? That was Biggie.
Yeah.
But the only way he can wrestle the crown from Biggie is they got to duel it out in the war words.
That's dope.
So,
yeah, that's dope. Look, last week I was repping Pac, and now he got big. That's dope. Yes, sir.
So that's the reason why it's not to dupe the public; it's to save the life of the person, so that they can experience after we clear it all up and everything come out in the open. They can live as close to a normal life as possible. It was 2 hits on Left Eye.
Yep.
It was multiple hits on Aaliyah.
Yeah.
Right. That was confirmed hits. You got to have a confirmed hit before you can do an extraction. But But then you have to have a telltale sign of the extraction. That's why Nipsey Mama told you they didn't tell you I was sitting right there in the parking lot when it happened.
Damn.
Wait a minute. She got a whole interview. She's sitting in the car. She said they didn't tell you. Because his mama not finna trust these suckers to take her son, and she know they got a murder order on him. I need to be there. I need to see it.
Yeah.
She said, I was sitting right there in the car. Go back to what his grandmama said. She said, Black Sam got that car. He left out of here. Must be 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. But according to the story, he don't get shot till in the afternoon, like 1 something.
Facts.
So where Black Sam going at that early in the morning in such a rush?
And there was other people got multiple calls that said that he was already passed away and he didn't.
Yeah.
I forgot his name. Forgot his name.
Look, you know why everybody think Big U had something to do with it?
Why?
He was the chief on duty. We can't extract Nipsey without his permission. And that's why he kept laughing every time somebody was asking him about it. He wasn't laughing at Nip. He was laughing at how naive people is when they told you the whole story within 2 to 3 days.
That's deep. That's deep. Now, so what, Rob? What Aaliyah did she really get assassinated, or was she a part of an
She
extraction?
went left eye, told her that if you want to be safe, you need to come with me. And she was scared to death because she got word because she was supposed to get killed in the car accident in New York with Dame Dash. They were supposed to kill both of them together.
Aaliyah?
Oh wow.
Yeah. They were supposed to get rid of both of them together. That's why she had to look. Go look at the crime scene or the crash site, and you're gonna notice that it's a trail all around the plane. That's a training site for a crash.
Damn. He stay peeling them caps back. That's crazy.
Only in these Ashe streets, buddy. Man, yeah. Look, yeah, y'all listen. Yeah,
I couldn't understand why it was 5 different live videos of Kobe plane a helicopter crash with 5 different airplanes on 5 different news channels.
Right.
You know, I saw something, and I normally I don't really give stuff like this too much thought, but this one I ain't gonna lie, I ain't gonna cap and say I didn't ponder it a little bit. But I saw something that somebody was stating that Kobe's not there. He came back as Miles. What's the brother played for the Cowboys? What was his name?
Not Miles Turner. I forgot. He played in
He plays for the Cowboys.
Yeah, okay.
Damn, what's the brother's
football
name?
player?
Yeah.
That's not gonna happen.
Maybe that's not his name, but I can't remember.
I know you're talking about because I seen that, but they using so they're using phenotype.
Yeah. Oh, okay, I got you.
They're using phenotypes.
Okay.
They really just showing you who in the same tribe more than they showing you who came back as somebody else.
Gotcha.
Because the more your facial features, like I could go down to Macomb, Mississippi, where my daddy from, and see people that look very similar to my dad.
Hell, you look similar to mine. Like I got to send you a picture of him, but y'all resemble, bro. Like for real.
That's why I told him and my dad, he kind of look alike too a little bit.
It's crazy, bro. Like I had to send you. Like, y'all remind me of each other for real. It's crazy.
I'm familiar with this Russian study that they did too, because they did a frequency tracker on somebody that was dying.
That's why I want
and they tracked their frequency from the time they left their body, then it disappeared for a period of time, and then they got the message from a distant star constellation. Remember, I told you all we is stars and walking around like we people, learning how to balance our energy, and we use the Earth as the training ground. And the law of polarity is to teach you how to balance your left and your right. And the more balanced you are, the less entropy you generate. That's why the sun can burn so long, right? Because the speed of conversion of chemicals is causing it to be a sun is balanced with the rate of exhaustion. So it's not burning more than it's consuming. They got a word for it in physics. Is entropy reduction. Right. And this is when you get to perfect balance or the state of perfect balance. This when your macabra's able to be put online now, because you in your flux flow. You oscillating between fourth density and third density. But when the solar flares get done, it's going to move your frequency where your fourth dimensional body is fully awake in the 3D, and you oscillating from 4D body to 5D reality, from physical to spiritual, which makes you a more spiritual self. Look, we do everything everything we see in outer space. Like, pay attention to a celebrity. They shooting stars. Wherever they go, they leave a trail of debris behind them called people. That's following them everywhere they go.
That's facts.
Right? We're just mimicking as above, so below, as within, so without.
That goes back
but
to the
once you learn how to read it and translate it, it takes on a whole new life of its own.
Yeah. That goes back to the 7 hermetic principles we were speaking about earlier too. And then Bdell, that to me, that is the almost like a unison between divination and gematria, because divination is based off the binary codes or the binary, numerologies of zeros and ones, just like the matrix. But if you know the code, you can tap into the messages being revealed through the code. Just like I feel like if you know numerology and gematria, you know what I'm saying, you could do the same with that.
That's how you unlock yourself from the gematria body. Because that's when you tap into the oversoul, which is the Zohar. That's the apex of Christ consciousness. That's when you're able to use the quantum entanglement processing system in the brain that is cultivated by right now. That's, like you said, it's all about balance.
Yeah, that's a good question for Brother Bobby Blunt. What happens after death?
The simplest way to put it is you had the biggest laugh of your life.
Right.
At the fact that you experienced all of the emotions you was able to experience, because that's the only reason you're here. Your worst emotional condition and your best emotional condition mean the same outside of the physical body. You just as happy when you leave the body to have experienced extreme hate as you is experience extreme love. All they are is two different degrees of the same energy. That's why they say it's a thin line between love and hate.
Yeah. And the laws of polarity too.
And piggyback on top of that, as he was saying, what happens after death, it really depends on what frequency you're on. Because just like he was bringing up love and hate, there's an emotional component that keeps you in the perpetual state of reincarnation. You can love something so much to the point it destroys you, to where you keep coming right back here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You have a veneration for food, sex, money, and things of that nature.
Drugs, whatever, weed, alcohol. Yeah.
Those are called attachments.
Yeah.
Because you can't be free without those attachments.
But those things alone is not enough to bring you back, because you still gotta write a book of life before you incarnate. Because your book of life is your action plan for why you even coming back to this realm. Right. So those things is your incentives. Right. If you can come back into the body again, you get to have sex. You get to eat lobster. You get to listen to good music. You get to smell good fragrances. All of the stuff you can't do when you're not in the physical body. Those are the incentives to influence you to want to experience it again. And this is why you have sociopaths, because they came to re-experience all of the dastardly deeds they did in prior lives. That was their incentive to come back.
So this is probably why you have a lot of fragmented souls that's stuck in the in-between, and they use other people as vessels and hosts to live out their desires.
Yeah, and just like parasites.
It's like unfinished business.
That's the original fugitive. That's the original fugitive. You ever hear him say, "Don't go into the light"?
Yep.
That's because you're gonna be a fugitive. When you don't go in the light, you be a fugitive, runaway soul. After you be running around for a couple 100,000 years, you gonna want to go somewhere.
Right. Yeah. Somebody said the spirit is meat food. Yeah, that's real. Yeah. We running heavy tonight too, boy. We're like 3,000, boy, under 3,000 tonight out there, man. Look, they came here to see this World War III. So right now, yeah, where we at now? We done covered a lot of ground. We
can sum it up now.
Right. Everything's connected, so it don't matter where you go with the conversation. It's all connected, metaphysically, physically, theologically, and spiritually. It's all connected. So
unified field theory.
Yep. The grand unified theory. Yes, sir. That's facts. That's facts.
It only works in the holographic matrix. Because all parts of the hologram is in every single part of the hologram. The whole of the hologram is in every part of the hologram.
Look, somebody said, Bonnie said, nah. Chief and be like, they got a good 2 more hours, man. Y'all keep shooting.
Look, we had wave up here. I'm ready to go jump in the shower, but I understand how y'all feel. Look, me and Bdell get on the phone just to say hi to each other, be on there for almost an hour chopping it up. So
Look, man, look, and they talking about the Bulls, the triangle offense. Wait till Rodman join.
Oh yeah,
that's me. That's me. Y'all, Scotty and Mike. I'm the great defender.
Listen, look, I'm gonna be all right. Look, I don't care which one I am, as long as I'm on the court. That's all that matters to me. Yes, sir.
Making that change.
Yes, sir. Nah, that's what's up, man. I definitely appreciate it, family. I'm gonna share them. Let me share them cash apps again real quick for the tribe before we get up out of here. But yeah, so with that, man, I definitely give thanks to all 3,000 plus that showed up tonight, man. Nothing but love and appreciation for real. Y'all been holding us down in these Ashe streets, and I truly and sincerely appreciate y'all. So with that, I appreciate this Thunder and Lightning duo, Big Chief Rod and the scientist, the wizard of research, Brother Bdell 1014, man. I appreciate not only what y'all do here, but what I see y'all doing on your channels, on other channels, etc., because it's needed. And I'm learning something every time I get on this doggone podcast. I'm learning something. So it's like I'm in school too. I'm at work and in school. You know what I mean? But I love it because I'm a nerd. And that's why like a lot of the books we mentioned, I can pull them up real quick because I really do it. Like, this is not a front. I'm a nerd for real. And I'm proud of it, man. But this has been dope, man. I appreciate y'all boys for real. And it's going to be a heavy week this week too, family. We got Professor Kaba coming in tomorrow night. We got some brand new powerful guests coming up the rest of the week. And we bringing the feminine energy. The mothers have returned. The mothers are here. And we're starting, I think, Wednesday. We're going to have, the feminine energy here. And then I'm going to try to get another one too this week. So we got a lot going on, man. Excuse me, tribe. So it's going to be a Mama-geddon week this week for sure. Yes, sir. Let me see. Try to get the but yeah, man. So I appreciate y'all, fellas. Did y'all want to lead the tribe with anything on the way? I know I think I might have said that once, but we kept going. So I'm gonna say it one more time before we get up out of here.
I better keep my mouth shut.
Look, well, yeah, because you gonna walk in. I forgot whose name it was. They got 2 hours more. They ain't tired. Oh, somebody said Stone Mountain. Shout out to Zone 3. They was talking about Stone Mountain. And just showing love, man. We appreciate y'all too, family.
Yeah, Stone Mountain, June 28th, next weekend, Atlanta, Georgia. There's gonna be a lot of people there. Just really trying to combat, the ethers, you know what I'm saying, trying to reverse the polarity of everything that's taking place. So you got a lot of bad energy. We trying to balance it out with the good energy. That's all we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. That's facts. Look, y'all, Big Chief said he ain't saying nothing because y'all ain't finna pull him back in. My man said he ready to get Nah, I appreciate it. Nah, it's been real. I know.
Library.
Huh?
I say he a whole library.
Man, listen, library, encyclopedia, that shit. Star map. I don't know what the hell to call him, man. But I know I love listening. I know that. For real. But yeah, nah, I definitely appreciate it, family. So listen, I don't want to put y'all on the spot, but I might as well try it now. Are we good for next Sunday? We're gonna make this thing happen again with the triangle offense, or what is we doing? Is we doing it? Or is we not? Is we finished? Is we done?
I probably won't be back until that Monday.
Oh, that's right. I forgot you got the
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
and I'll be traveling too, I think.
Yeah, we might have to skip next week because there's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, it's all good. Look, we got plenty here these last 3 or 4. But now, and I'll definitely get with y'all, off air, and line something up again for sure, man. I look forward to it.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay, family. Well, Tribe, I appreciate y'all. Once again, I appreciate all the love, support, subscribers, memberships, the comments, the shares, the super chats, all that, man. Y'all make sure y'all tear up them, the cash apps too, man, for brother Bdell and for brother Big Chief, man, for coming through and dropping all this heat, and taking the time to really pour in, but like really, really bring. You can't really get this kind of information nowhere else in the world. I said this the other day about the movie or the series Ancient Aliens on I forgot which network it's on. Where I'm like, but you looking at the real Ancient Aliens. We talking about from the inside looking out. They talking about from the outside looking up and looking in. You know what I'm saying? Like this is where it's at for real. So I appreciate y'all being a part of us making it happen and showing that we really are the holders of this light and this knowledge, this wisdom, this understanding, overstanding, outerstanding, and understanding. So I appreciate it, family, for sure.
They thought I was joking. I said I was here when y'all came and I'll be here when y'all leave.
I know that's right. Look,
at this point, all I can say is good riddance.
Peace.
But yeah, I appreciate it. That's a mic drop. So mic drop, and I can't say nothing else, man. That's it right there. That's it. Posting all the other links for all the other lives coming up. But I definitely appreciate y'all, family. So we'll see y'all on the next episode. This has been your host, Orisha Bamey. Shout out to the Big Chief, Rod Hayes, the Wizard of Research, the scientist, Brother Bdell 1014. We'll see y'all on the next episode, family. We out.
Appreciate y'all. Peace.
Peace.
Ẹni tó gbàgbé ilé sàpò ìyàpọ̀ tẹ́ntẹ́ni takisa ní tàtàn ò bá padà sílé anítìjàkọ ẹja lọ pé eégún mo ṣe ní gbẹ́rẹ́ ìpàkọ́ forsake not your ancestors and praise your.